Have you ever felt your patience slipping away just from hearing somebody's comment or witnessing an attitude that you simply don't agree with? It's as if your whole day ends right there. The situation doesn't stay outside of you. It shifts your emotional state. It ruins your day. And that is frustrating. But what if there were a key to never losing control? The Stoics already had clarity about this. Nobody has the power to change the way you feel unless you allow it. Think about the feeling of staying calm. No matter what happens, imagine going through your entire day with so much peace that not even the same people or the same unexpected events can interfere with your balance. This doesn't depend on how other people behave. It has nothing to do with being cold, nor with pretending that everything is fine. It has to do with clarity. It's what happens when you learn to master your own emotions. And that is exactly what you are going to develop right here. Throughout this video, you are going to see 10 practices rooted in Stoicism that show you how to stop reacting on impulse and keep your composure, even when the environment around you isn't helping. You're going to learn how not to get pulled into arguments that lead nowhere, how not to soak up everything you hear, how to protect your time, your energy, and your peace. And above all, how to set yourself free from the resentments that drain you. If you want to stop letting every little thing get under your skin, drop a comment saying, "I choose my peace." It may seem like other people are the ones pushing your buttons, but the truth is, it's how much you keep on reacting to it afterward. And that is exactly the cycle that you are going to learn to break right here. 1. You've always been in control. Understand that. Picture an ordinary day. You're relaxed, on the couch, taking care of your things, your mind in order, your rhythm under control. And then, without warning, someone says something that cuts right through you. It's not enough to ruin the day, but it's enough to shift your state. Your peace is interrupted, and a wave of frustration or anger starts to grow. You think, why did that person ruin my day? But the truth is more straightforward than that. No one enters your emotional state without finding an open door. You have, and have always had, control over your reactions. That moment of frustration is simply a choice. What the other person says or does might be a trigger, but it isn't a command. There is no external button that works without your consent. The world will always bring challenges. That doesn't change. But the way you respond is what determines whether something becomes a problem or just an event. True strength comes from within, from your ability to control your emotions. It isn't about avoiding situations, but about not becoming a hostage to them. Now, imagine being in a noisy city with cars honking and people talking loudly. The noise is there, constant, unavoidable, but it cannot invade your personal space. It's like wearing noise-canceling headphones. The sound exists, but you don't hand over your attention to it. You don't let it affect your inner peace. The environment stays the same, but your experience changes completely. That is the essence of mastering your reactions, not controlling the world, but filtering what comes in. Calm doesn't come from the absence of noise. It comes from your ability to not turn every noise into an inner conflict. Between the trigger and your response, there is a space. And it's in that space that most people fail, because they react before realizing they could choose. That space is where your power lives. True freedom is in how you decide to react. That is self-control, choosing calm over anger, understanding over impulse. For example, when someone cuts you off in traffic, the immediate reaction shows up. It comes fast, almost ready to go. But what if, instead of following that impulse, you create a small delay? 1 second changes everything. Because in that second, you stop reacting and start deciding. Think also about a coworker who brushes off your ideas. You could carry that all day long, replay that situation for days. But what happens if you break that cycle and ask, is this about me, or is this about where he's at? That moment of reflection hands the control back to you, because not everything that reaches you deserves to stay inside you. Often, other people's reactions say more about them than about you. And when you understand that, you stop absorbing what you don't need to carry. Thinking this way doesn't mean ignoring what you feel. Anger, frustration, disappointment, all of that is natural. All of these are emotions that make you human. The mistake isn't feeling, it's automatically obeying what you feel. Every emotion is a signal, not an order. A simple way to train this is to pause when something sets you off. Ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? When you name the emotion, you immediately slow down the reaction. Then, why am I feeling this way? Did this actually happen, or was it the way I interpreted it? And finally, choose your response, not the fastest one, the most conscious one. Imagine living without letting just anyone shift your inner state so easily. The comment, the unexpected event, someone else's behavior, they still exist, but they no longer have direct access to you. You have two options: let others define how you feel, or take that responsibility on yourself. And when you take it on, you stop being dragged around by the world and start standing your ground in front of it. The next time something tries to throw you off balance, remember, the other person's behavior does not control your peace. What controls it is the way you respond. And it's in that choice, repeated every single day, that you build a steady mind, a grounded presence, and a life that doesn't depend on other people's moods to stay in balance. 2. You don't always need to be right. Have you ever stepped into a simple conversation and, without realizing it, watched it turn into a battle? Not because the topic was important, but because at some point it became about who was right. During the conversation, you probably felt the need to prove your point, as if that were the only thing that mattered. Being right all the time, more often than not, is tied to an inner insecurity, as if being contradicted somehow threatened our identity. But what if, instead of digging your heels in on your opinion, you tried to understand the other person, opening the door to new ideas? Not every conversation needs a winner. Some just need enough maturity to keep them from turning into conflict. Is being right worth more than having peace? When you walk into a conversation looking to win, you create tension, you wear down the atmosphere, and you damage your relationships. On the other hand, when you choose not to cling to being the only one who's right, a sense of relief and inner peace shows up. Because you stop treating every conversation like a test of personal validation. Think about it. Someone takes something you said the wrong way and snaps back at you. The urge to correct, to explain, and to prove your point shows up right away. But not every misunderstanding needs to be corrected with the same intensity. Here's a simple example. You're talking with someone close to you, and the person keeps pushing an idea that you know doesn't add up. Instead of getting into a back and forth to prove they're wrong, you answer calmly, "I understand what you meant, and I respect that." And you move on, without turning it into a fight. This kind of attitude doesn't make you smaller, it puts you in control. As Lao Tzu said, those who cling too tightly to their own opinions never grow. Letting go of the need to be right isn't giving up on your principles. It's knowing how to pick your battles wisely, understanding when it's worth standing your ground, and when standing by your peace is the smarter move. Over time, you realize that letting go of the obsession with being right brings a sense of lightness. You no longer feel obligated to respond to everything, to correct everything, to prove everything. In the end, you stop trying to control every conversation because you've learned to choose peace over pride. Remember, true strength isn't about winning arguments, but about knowing how to hold your ground in them without losing control of yourself. And the real test will come the next time the urge to prove something pops up. That's the moment when you need to pause and ask yourself, does this really need to be settled, or does it just need to be let go? Does being right bring happiness, or does it just feed the urge to be right? Life isn't about being right all the time. It's about not losing yourself trying to prove it. Start ignoring that need from this moment forward. And if this resonated with you, comment, "I'd rather have my peace." Because this choice, repeated in the small moments, is what builds a mind stronger than any argument. 3. The silence that answers. Silence. Have you ever been provoked and in that very moment felt your body react before you even had time to think? The heat rises, your heart speeds up, and the urge to respond comes almost automatically. Not because you want to fight, but because staying silent feels like accepting what was said. But have you ever thought about simply saying nothing? Not every provocation needs a response. And most of the time, responding is exactly what keeps the situation alive. Silence, contrary to what it may seem, is not the absence of a response. It's a form of mastery, not over someone else, but over yourself. When you choose not to react, you're not backing down or running away. You're refusing to step into a state of mind that doesn't represent who you want to be. There is strength in not giving in to the immediate impulse. There is maturity in not turning every provocation into a confrontation. And above all, there is self-respect in not feeling the need to justify yourself every time you're attacked. Picture a simple situation. Someone tries to humiliate you in public. You can react, jump into the argument and lose your energy, or you can choose silence. When you jump into the argument, the conversation stops being about what was said and becomes about who reacts better to the provocation, and in the end, nobody wins. Now, when you choose not to react in that moment, the whole dynamic loses its strength, not because the other person stopped, but because you didn't feed it. A provocation grows weaker when it has nowhere to go. Not every act of disrespect needs an immediate response. Some just need to be left alone, with no fuel to keep them going. Silence doesn't solve everything, but it keeps you from turning a bad moment into something bigger than it needed to be. And most importantly, it protects your energy. How many times have you walked away from an argument thinking, "I didn't even need to get into that"? It wasn't what they said that wore you out the most. It was how deeply you got involved afterward. That's exactly where silence comes in, not as an escape, but as control over the moment you decide to act. If you need to respond, you respond later, with more clarity, less impulse, more control. But responding right away, just because the other person pulled you in, puts you in a rhythm that isn't yours. The next time someone tries to provoke you, before you say anything, ask yourself, does this really need a response right now, or does it just feel urgent because it got under my skin? Not every emotional urgency calls for immediate action. Silence isn't about letting things slide, it's about choosing when it's truly worth speaking. And once you understand that, you don't speak less, you speak better. As the Stoics taught, speak only if your words can improve the situation. This doesn't mean holding back what you feel, but choosing the right moment to express it. Words without direction only add to the noise. How many times have you regretted something you said in the heat of the moment? Silence prevents that kind of wear and tear because it creates space before the reaction. The next time someone tries to provoke you, ask yourself, will my response make things better, or will it just make the air heavier? By choosing silence, you protect your peace and stay in control of yourself. Because in the end, it's not about winning the argument, it's about not losing yourself inside of it. 4. Stop carrying that expectation. Have you ever built up a simple expectation about someone and they just didn't live up to it? Not even something big, just the bare minimum that, in your mind, would make perfect sense. Have you ever noticed how frustrated we get when we expect others to act the way we would and they simply don't? Disappointment shows up right away, and we think to ourselves, how can they be so insensitive? I would never do something like that. The truth is, people act based on their own life experiences, not on our expectations. Trying to control how they behave is like trying to hold the wind in your hands. The harder you try to grip it, the more you realize it was never yours to hold in the first place. Every person sees life through the lens of their own beliefs, wounds, limits, and experiences. When someone acts in a way that hurts us, it doesn't always reflect who we are. Most of the time, it's just a reaction to what they know, to what they're able to give, to the level of awareness they have in that very moment. And this is where most people get stuck, not on what actually happened, but on what they expected to happen. Trying to change the way other people behave only leads us to frustration. Instead of expecting them to fit into what we want, it's much healthier to see them for who they truly are, without making up an ideal version of them, only to be let down by the real one later. Think about a simple situation. You send a text, just something casual, and the person sees it but doesn't reply. You start filling in the silence. Did they ignore me? Don't they care? Did they do it on purpose? But the truth is, in that moment, you're not reacting to what actually happened. You're reacting to the expectation you built around it. Their behavior is still a reflection of them, not of you. When you stop expecting them to act within what you consider right, the weight gets lighter. Expectation is quiet when it's born, but heavy when it goes unmet. As William Shakespeare once said, expectation is the root of all heartache. The less we expect from others, the more we're able to protect our inner peace. Here's a simple exercise. Whenever someone gets under your skin, ask yourself, what did I expect this person to do? Then ask yourself, is it really realistic to expect them to act exactly the way I would? That question shifts your focus. You step out of frustration and you step into clarity. Instead of trying to change the way someone else behaves, focus on how you can respond with more calm, holding on to your emotional balance, because your response still belongs to you, even when the other person's actions don't. Imagine the freedom of letting go of all those expectations. The rude driver who cut you off in traffic, the friend who forgot about you, the co-worker who didn't show you any consideration. None of them can steal your peace unless you hand that peace over as payment. When you stop waiting for others to act according to your wishes, you take back control over your own reactions. You stop trading your stability for something that was never in your hands to begin with. Accepting this doesn't mean putting up with toxic behavior or throwing your values out the window. It means realizing that your peace is worth more than insisting on controlling what's beyond your reach. The next time someone lets you down, take a deep breath and remind yourself they're acting based on who they are, not on who I wish they were. This is out of my control. And in the end, the choice of how to respond is yours. By setting yourself free from expectations, you gain not only freedom from other people, but also relief from an emotional weight you might have been carrying around for a very long time. Because in the end, it's not other people's behavior that wears you down. It's the insistence on hoping they'll be different from who they actually are. 5. Don't hand your identity over to others. Have you ever shared something that made perfect sense to you, and then just one comment was enough to make you doubt everything? Picture a moment when you share something that truly drives you, something that touches your heart. Out of nowhere, someone drops a negative remark. That word, completely unexpected, kills the mood and your confidence takes a nosedive. But why does this happen? The reason is simple. More often than not, we hand other people the power to define how we see ourselves. The problem isn't only the criticism itself, it's in how it lands on you. When you depend on outside approval, any opinion carries way too much weight, and little by little, you stop seeing yourself through your own lens. True power comes from within, and that's what gives us confidence. When someone criticizes your work, the first reaction can be to get defensive or to feel discouraged. But what if, instead of reacting on the spot, you create a small space before answering? You allow yourself to consider that this is just an opinion and not a definition of who you are. That pause changes everything because it gives you back control over what you accept and what you don't. It's not about ignoring what was said, but about separating what makes sense from what isn't worth carrying around. Not every piece of criticism has depth. Some are just projection, haste, or carelessness. It's an exercise in inner peace, something the Stoics always emphasized. It's not about controlling what reaches you, it's about choosing what stays with you. By taking that pause, you reaffirm who you really are. It's not about being indifferent, it's about not reshaping yourself with every opinion that comes along. Your worth doesn't change because someone failed to recognize it. It only seems shaky when you outsource the way you see yourself. When you're aware that your worth comes from within, your self-esteem grows stronger. As Lao Tzu said, if you care too much about what others think, you become their prisoner. Setting yourself free from the constant search for approval doesn't mean ignoring others. It means refusing to give every voice the same weight. Not every opinion deserves a place inside you. The next time someone shakes your confidence, take that pause. Ask yourself, does this really define who I am, or is it just the way this person sees the world? That simple question is the key to recognizing your own strength. True strength isn't found in avoiding criticism, but in standing firm even when it shows up. When you stop letting other people's words define your worth, something rearranges itself inside you. You stop reacting to every comment and start holding yourself together with more consistency. And when that happens, you no longer need to prove who you are. You simply keep being. 6. Take your boundaries seriously. Have you ever had your day already packed, everything planned out, and someone showed up with a request that wasn't urgent, but somehow ended up being your responsibility? What do you feel? A growing frustration, right? It throws off your plans, and you ask yourself, why is it so hard to say no? The answer is simple. To protect your peace, you need boundaries. Without them, you let other people decide how you spend your time and your energy. Saying yes all the time also means saying no to what matters to you. And over time, that doesn't go unnoticed. You feel it. The big lesson here is, you can't give your best to others if you don't take care of yourself first. If you give yourself away without considering your own energy, frustration and burnout become unavoidable. Boundaries aren't about pushing people away. They're about not pushing yourself away. Setting boundaries is, above all, an act of self-respect. They don't just protect your peace of mind, they also create more balanced relationships. Remember, when someone crosses your boundaries, the responsibility is yours for not having made them clear. People can't possibly guess how far they're allowed to go. If you don't define them, someone else will define them for you. Setting boundaries is a form of respect, both for yourself and for others. For example, imagine that a friend always asks you for advice late into the night. Even though you want to help, it starts to drain your energy. Instead of letting frustration build up, you can say, I want to hear you out, but I need to rest. Can we talk tomorrow? It's firm, it's clear, and it doesn't break the relationship. Respect isn't about saying yes to everything. It's about being honest about what you can carry. As Aristotle said, true freedom isn't doing what you want, but doing what you ought. If you struggle with setting boundaries, start with clarity and honesty. Express your needs in a simple and straightforward way. People tend to respect you more when they know exactly what you need. Say, I need some time for myself after work, instead of reacting with accusations. Clarity prevents wear and tear. Hinting around only drags the problem out. And after you set your boundaries, be consistent. Consistency shows that you truly value your time and your energy. As the saying goes, he who knows when to stop avoids falling into traps. By honoring your own boundaries, you cut down on unnecessary stress and start living with more balance. Boundaries aren't walls that push people away. They're the framework that holds healthy relationships together. When you honor your own boundaries, you get your energy back and channel it toward what truly matters. Because, in the end, it's not a lack of time. It's a lack of judgment about where you're putting it. Remember, your priority starts with you, with your peace, your time, your well-being. And when that's clear, you don't need to justify yourself so much. You just need to respect yourself. 7. Turn your anger into gratitude. Have you ever had one of those days when nothing seems to fall into place? Everything spirals out of control and anger shows up fast. And along with it comes the feeling that everything is harder than it should be. Now, what if, instead of continuing to feed that state, you shifted the direction of your attention, not to pretend that everything is fine, but to keep from amplifying something that is already wearing you down? That is exactly where gratitude steps in. It has the power to soften anger and to turn even the most challenging moments into opportunities to find calm. And there is a simple truth in this. We cannot feel anger and gratitude at the same time. When you connect with what is positive, anger loses its grip. It does not vanish by magic, but because you stop giving it room to take over everything. Whatever you focus on expands. In the same way that small gestures fuel your anger, small acts of thankfulness shift your energy. Cicero used to say that gratitude is not only the greatest of virtues, but the mother of all the others. And that makes sense, because when you adjust your focus, you also adjust your reaction. It is not about denying what is wrong. It is about not letting it take up your entire field of view. Think about a simple moment. Something goes wrong during your day. You can keep revisiting it, replaying it in your mind, feeding the discomfort, or you can interrupt that pattern before it spreads. When you practice gratitude, it does not just erase anger. It also strengthens your patience, your resilience, and your ability to focus on what truly matters. It is a tool that is always within reach, simple and powerful. The key is to turn this into a habit. When anger hits, take a moment to breathe and ask yourself honestly, what, in spite of all this, is still in place? It may seem small, but it is exactly this kind of adjustment that keeps your energy from pouring into one single point. Because anger concentrates, gratitude distributes, and that changes the way you move through your day. If someone criticizes you, for example, your immediate reaction may be defensiveness or irritation, but after the first wave hits, there is a choice. Are you going to carry that with you for the rest of the day, or are you going to decide how much room it really deserves? This is not about accepting disrespect. It is about not turning a bad moment into a permanent state. And in practice, this takes training. In the middle of the discomfort, you need to ask yourself, do I want to stay in this state, or do I want to step out of it? Gratitude is one way out, not perfect, not automatic, but available. And over time, this changes your inner compass. You stop reacting against the world and start choosing where you place your energy. Because in the end, it is not what happens that defines your state. It is how long you hold on to it afterward. Try this. At the end of every day, write down 3 things you are grateful for. It can be something very simple, but it helps shift your focus toward what is good, even on the days when the sun does not come out. Gratitude is an invitation to move the focus from what is missing to what we already have. It is not about ignoring anger or frustration, but about consciously deciding to look at what lifts you up and not at what drags you down. 8. Hold on to your psychological independence. Have you ever said something with full conviction and then, after someone else's reaction, started to doubt what you just said yourself? Maybe it was a simple idea, an opinion, a personal choice, something that made perfect sense to you until you ran into criticism, sarcasm, or indifference on the other side. And all of a sudden, the certainty that felt so clear starts to fade. Not because you changed your mind, but because you let someone else's reaction take the place of your own self-confidence. The pain is real. That feeling can turn your self-confidence into uncertainty. But stop for a moment and think about it. Why do other people's reactions carry so much weight? We've all fallen into the approval trap. But the problem isn't wanting to be accepted. It's when you start using other people's reactions as a yardstick to measure your own worth. True emotional freedom shows up when you decide not to bow down to what other people think. Every person sees the world through their own experiences, limits, and insecurities. What someone says about you doesn't arrive clean. It comes loaded with the way that person reads the world. When you give too much weight to that, you hand over control of your emotions, and you end up letting other people run your life for you. Your worth is not up for debate. No matter what anyone says or thinks about you, your personal value is unshakable. That's what letting go means. Psychological independence doesn't mean tuning everything out. It means knowing that not every opinion deserves to influence you. The moment you set yourself free from the need for approval, you start living in line with who you truly are. For example, you pick something that feels right to you, an outfit, a decision, an idea. You're good with it. But then someone reacts with sarcasm. I don't know about that. You can either let it get to you because you start wondering if maybe they're right, or you can simply realize that this opinion has no power to chip away at your happiness. That's the key to letting go, not allowing what other people think to define your state of mind. As Epictetus said, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish. Growth means standing behind your choices even when no one signs off on them. Because at the end of the day, nobody else lives your life for you. If you need a stamp of approval all the time, you'll freeze up, because there will always be someone who disagrees. So how do you start standing your ground better when this comes up? When something gets to you, ask, does this actually carry weight, or did it just bother me because it wasn't what I wanted to hear? And even more important, does this person have any real ground to define something about my life? Not every opinion carries authority, and treating every single one as if it does is exactly what wears you down. Not every opinion hits you directly. Sometimes it's the doubt you built up afterward. Holding on to your psychological independence means closing that gap, not with arrogance, but with clarity. Stand by your values and focus on what truly matters to you. Your decisions need to make sense to you before they make sense to anyone else. And when criticism shows up, take note of it, but don't let it eat you alive. If there's something to it, you adjust. If there isn't, you keep moving without carrying that weight any longer than you have to. Picture those words like leaves falling into a river. They drift by, leaving no trace behind. Remember, if you chase approval, you'll be a prisoner to other people. The real risk in the end isn't being criticized. It's starting to live your life trying to dodge any kind of criticism. And when that happens, you stop steering your own life and you start reacting to how other people see you. The next time someone makes you doubt yourself, ask, does this change who I am, or did it just test how steady I really stand? Choose to ignore what doesn't matter. Don't abandon yourself just to fit inside someone else's opinion. Your path is one of a kind, and it doesn't need to be dictated by passing opinions. 9. Brutal refinement. Have you ever received a piece of criticism that stopped you cold? Not something gentle, but direct, pointing out exactly where you fell short. And for a few seconds, all you could think about was defending yourself. It's natural for criticism to cause discomfort. It touches something you're still building. But there's a point that changes everything. Criticism doesn't hurt only because of what it says. It hurts because it reveals something you haven't fully worked through yet. And that's exactly why it can be a powerful tool. Instead of treating it as an attack, you can treat it as raw material. Not to accept everything, but to extract what makes you stronger. Imagine you're preparing an important presentation. You put in the work, organize everything, and then someone points out clear flaws, lack of clarity, weak arguments, a confusing structure. The immediate reaction is to shut down. But if you sit with a few seconds of discomfort and ask yourself, what here is true? You shift your stance. Criticism stops being a confrontation and becomes a refinement. Because nobody grows from being praised alone. Praise maintains. Criticism, when used well, transforms. Criticism works like a mirror. But not a comfortable mirror. It's the one that shows you what you still avoid looking at. Of course, not all criticism is valuable. Some of it comes from frustration, projection, or even the insecurity of the person speaking. That's why the point of this lesson isn't to accept everything. It's to know how to separate what carries weight from what's just noise. Think about it this way. When someone says something about you, there are two layers, the content and the intention. The intention isn't always good, but sometimes the content is still useful, and that's where the real gain is. Now, imagine a situation closer to home. Someone in your family criticizes your life choices. The tone may come in heavy, with judgment. The automatic reaction would be to shut down or fight back. But there's another possibility. You don't have to accept the delivery in order to weigh the content. You listen, you filter, and you decide. Without turning it into a confrontation, but also without dismissing it out of hand. As Epictetus once said, no person is free who is not master of himself. And being master of yourself includes this: not reacting to criticism, but deciding what to do with it. When you hear something that bothers you, instead of answering right away, hold on for a few extra seconds. That small space pulls you out of defense and into analysis. After that, the question is straightforward. Is there anything here I can use? If there is, you improve. If there isn't, you move on, without carrying more than you need to. By keeping your calm and your composure, you turn criticism into fuel for growth, rather than a barrier to inner peace. Because the mistake isn't in the criticism, it's in rejecting everything, or absorbing everything without a filter. Brutal refinement is exactly that. It isn't comfortable, it isn't easy. But it's what brings you closer to who you can truly become, a stronger and more balanced version of yourself. Growth doesn't happen where you're already good. It happens precisely where you still resist looking. Criticism, when faced with serenity, is an opportunity. Embrace it with humility, because welcoming this process is the path to building resilience and a deeper connection with yourself. 10. The technique of letting go. Imagine you are holding a burning ember, ready to throw it at someone who hurt you. But while you wait for the right moment, the ember burns your hand. Anger and resentment work exactly the same way. You hurt yourself more by holding on to them than the person who caused your pain ever could. And the longer you hold on, the deeper that pain settles in. True strength is not found in sustaining that state. It is found in realizing that continuing to carry this does not protect you, it only keeps you trapped. Letting go is not forgetting. It is not brushing aside what happened. It is choosing to stop keeping alive something that has already passed, but still takes up space inside of you. It is removing the emotional weight that keeps you tied to the past and creating room to fully live in the present. Think of something that hurt you. How much time have you already spent going back to it? Replaying the scene, imagining comebacks, reliving it over and over. Letting go interrupts this cycle, not because it fixes what happened, but because it ends how much you keep on living through it. Holding on to anger is like drinking poison and waiting for the other person to die. Now picture a real-life situation. Someone at work uses one of your ideas and does not give you credit. You can spend days stuck on it, or you can decide that this will not take up any more space than it already has. not by accepting what they did, but by refusing to let it keep eating away at you. Your worth is not diminished because of this, but your energy is drained when you insist on carrying it. By releasing that hurt, you protect your peace, and you focus on what truly matters, your growth, your opportunities. As Lao Tzu said, "When I let go of what I am, I become what I might be." Letting go is also about this, leaving behind the need to control everything, the demand that everything unfold the way you expect, holding on to thoughts that only wear you down. It is more than just releasing anger or resentment. It is leaving behind perfectionism, the fear of failure, the need to control everything around us. It is accepting life with all of its uncertainties and discovering freedom in that acceptance. It is not losing. It is simply ceasing to push where there is nothing left to gain. There is an important point here. Letting go does not happen all at once. It begins when you acknowledge what you are feeling without pretending it is not there. Then when you stop feeding it with new thoughts, and most of all, when you decide to turn your attention back to the present, because the past only stays heavy as long as you keep carrying it. Letting go is your choice, not the other person's. By shifting your perspective, you feel the emotional weight fade away. Think of it like releasing a balloon. The tighter you hold it, the more it pulls against you. But when you let it go, it rises, and you feel lighter. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Do not be disturbed by what is beyond your control." And in the end, this is the question that settles it all. Is this worth the price of your peace? Because every time you hold on to something like this, you are paying with your time, your energy, and your clarity. And the more you release, the more space you create. Space to think better, to act better, to live with more ease. True strength does not lie in resisting all the time. It lies in knowing when to stop holding on. Learning this does not turn you into someone who ignores what they feel, but into someone who does not get lost inside of what they feel. May the Stoic House be your refuge whenever the world feels heavy. Leave your like, share, and subscribe to keep on this journey with me. Thank you for watching.